She and four of her fellow graduates are off to California, where they hope to blaze new trails together in a place she's never been. If the U.S. was to get the Russians a target, they couldn't guarantee that they'll actually hit the target with the types of bombs that they've been using. General John Nicholson, who is the commander of international forces in Afghanistan, said that this was the right munition to use. When the F-18s take off, you can just feel it. It goes up about 20 degrees on the flight deck.
Really?
But even though this beautiful city is far away from the fighting in eastern Ukraine, the soldiers preparing for that fight are a lot closer than you might think. Let's not forget about what they're doing and what they've done in Ukraine. It's really difficult to read and you have to scroll through to find any problems. Now take a look at Plan X. It's the same type of data, but it's done in a way so it's easier to identify the problems. She was able to get an infantry contract while in boot camp, and now she has completed training here at the School of Infantry. Marksmanship, like what's going on in the range behind me. General Votel has suggested perhaps the Euphrates River Valley, an area in between Raqqa and Mosul, where they can try to regroup. And they've been using F-18 fighter jets like the one coming in right here. Just hours before Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis arrived here in Kabul, the Minister of Defense and the Army Chief resigned. President Donald Trump is a businessman, and so when it comes to NATO, he wants to make sure that the United States isn't getting a bad deal. Some of them have bombs attached right here on the wings, and they are conducting strikes against Islamic State. He knows the players. He was the head of Central Command when he was in the military. And yes, they did request about 25 more of those F-18s that you saw shooting off the carrier to help with the counter-ISIS fight. But the big focus for them is maintenance. Reporting at Fort Benning, I'm Carla Babb. Reporting from Baghdad, I'm Carla Babb. Reporting in Kabul, I'm Carla Babb, VOA News. From boot camp to graduation. Private First Class Maria Dom has done what many naysayers said a woman would never do.
I just want to shake your hand.
Thank you.
You know, you're part of history. You know that,
Yes,
right?
sir. Thank you.
And that's amazing.
She's the first female Marine to join the infantry through the traditional entry-level training process, a process only made available to women just a half year earlier.
I like to prove people wrong, and just because you're a female it doesn't mean you can't do what a male can do.
Navigating through woods, sleeping outdoors, and carrying back-breaking loads are par for the course at the School of Infantry.
Help me out, Brennan.
Instructor and Mortar Marine Sergeant Matthew Snyder said not only did Dom graduate, she often made things look easy.
She was right at the top of the pack.
Her arrival in the infantry comes as a scandal has rocked the Corps. A private Facebook group called Marines United shared links to nude photos of military women, with new links urging them to post only the, quote, nastiest images. Marine Corps Commandant General Robert Neller told lawmakers he is disgusted.
How much more do the females of our Corps have to do to be accepted? We all have to commit to getting rid of this perversion to our culture. Enough is enough.
Dom just wants to keep moving forward.
It kind of just gives me more motivation to show them that we can do it and just to watch.
Her mother sees a young woman who inspires her, and experts hope her success will persuade more women to join despite the current scandal.
This may be the way to bridge the gap and bring more women into the infantry, and therefore make them feel like colleagues with their infantry counterparts.
Dom says to her peers here in Camp Lejeune, she wasn't Dom the female, she was just Dom. She and four of her fellow graduates are off to California, where they hope to blaze new trails together in a place she's never been. Reporting at Camp Lejeune, I'm Carla Babb, VOA News. Lviv, Ukraine, known for enchanting architecture, lively citizens, and deliciously decadent chocolate. A quick stop at the Lviv Chocolate Factory will set your taste buds soaring. Its charming cafes and quaint cobblestones have led travelers to call it a hidden gem. But don't take our word for it. We spoke with the mayor.
If Kyiv is considered the heart of Ukraine, then Lviv is the soul of Ukraine. There are examples of technologies transplanting a heart, but there is no technology that can transplant a soul.
There's no sign of Russians backing separatists here, 1,100 kilometers from Crimea and 1,200 kilometers from the eastern Donbass region. But even though this beautiful city is far away from the fighting in eastern Ukraine, the soldiers preparing for that fight are a lot closer than you might think. Ukrainian forces are just a quick hour's drive away.
You guys ready to go?
Learning from U.S. troops how to master the basics needed to be a better soldier and a better fighting unit.
How to help injured people, the correct way of shooting, running, and everything else. This training is very useful.
This Ukrainian is heading east to fight after the training. He asked we only use his first name, Sergei, to protect his relatives living in Russia. Are you planning on going soon?
Yeah, I'm a soldier, so it's my duty.
Are you nervous?
Yeah, a little bit.
Back in Lviv, the locals we spoke with are happy the U.S. has come to help.
I
think that it's a truly nice thing to do because for the last 10 years, our army was not that battle-worthy.
If we don't have any support from the outside, specifically from the U.S., then the war will be lasting longer and longer.
And as the war drags on, the people here tell VOA they just want the fighting in the east to be over. Carla Babb, VOA News, Lviv, Ukraine. The call for more combat air power around the world has been answered time and again by Air Force fighter pilots. Years of training and millions of dollars are invested in each pilot, who maneuver high-tech aircraft which have evolved into flying supercomputers. You might expect there'd be plenty of fighter pilots ready to fly fighter jets like the F-22 Raptors behind me, but that's actually not the case. The U.S. Air Force is authorized to have 3,500 fighter pilots, but they're 725 fighter pilots short.
Hey, good afternoon. Have a seat. Relax.
Major General Scott Vanderham
So these are all the projects.
and Lieutenant General John Cooper are in charge of managing manpower for pilots and maintenance crew. They sat down together for the first time exclusively with VOA to discuss the growing crisis. How deep can this hole be dug before it has to be pulled out of and you can't get creative anymore and you just need more?
I'd say we're there. We have no margin, and that's what you're kind of speaking to. We have too few squadrons to meet the combatant commander's need.
The recent drawdown came about because of budget decreases, as the U.S. left Iraq in 2010 and was expected to leave Afghanistan.
The big variable is tempo. We didn't plan for ISIS. We planned to come home.
164 Bravo 7.
At Joint Base Langley Eustis, pilots say longer and more frequent deployments have devastated morale.
We were on 45-day rotations, then they made it 90-day rotations, then they made 120-day rotations. Now it's 6-month rotations with 1-year rotations sprinkled on top of it for key positions.
The deployments aren't the only thing causing pilots to quit. While stationed at home, pilots often have to work extra hours to finish administrative tasks, in addition to maintaining their flying skills.
I have a very high demand signal for my pilots, and I have not quite enough of them. This is where all the pucks start right here, and we start putting them on the board. So everybody here is scheduled, is doing something. There's no slop.
The Air Force is training about 135 more pilots in this fiscal year than 2 years ago, but that effort appears to have been undercut, since it only retained about 40% of fighter pilots up for contract renewals in 2016. It's almost a crisis within a crisis.
It is, because we need to retain, Carla, about 65%, about 2/3 of those pilots to fill the slots that they need to fill.
The fighter pilot shortage has spiked at a time when commercial airlines, which offer more stable schedules at home and the potential for higher pay, are looking for more pilots who love to fly.
If it's up to just me, I definitely would stay in, but my family has a vote, and so if they're doing well and they're enjoying where we're at, then we'll stay. If they want me to leave to do something else, then that's probably what I'll end up doing.
Former fighter pilot Tom Hunt left the Air Force in 2013 and now earns more money as a Washington, D.C. lawyer. He says the Air Force could resolve the shortage if it wanted to.
Some people say you can't throw money at everything. You can. You absolutely can. If you said the pilot bonus is now $500,000, single lump sum payment, guaranteed you'll solve your pilot shortage.
The Air Force is asking Congress for money to raise the bonus up to $48,000 per year, the first such bonus increase since 1999. The Pentagon hopes it will be enough to retain experienced pilots needed to keep up the Air Force's fast-paced operations and train the new recruits. For now, the generals say they are still able to carry out all the fighter jet sorties or flights needed on the front lines abroad. But if the efforts to resolve the fighter pilot crisis fail, they will quickly lose that ability.
We're looking at it right now, and we may have to, within the next calendar year, start to take some degradations in the frontline squadrons.
Those degradations mean the Air Force wouldn't be able to deploy its pilots as quickly, which brings the risk for more conflict casualties. And even if the Air Force does everything possible to increase fighter pilot numbers, the solution is more than a decade away. Carla Babb, VOA News, Joint Base Langley Eustis.